So the social identity model that I really identified with was Gibson's identity development model. I felt like this was somewhat accurate to my own experiences and thoughts on disability and the development of how or people with disabilities grow and progress throughout their life. With this journal, I feel like it's important to go back to get to where acceptance is finally found. For the first part, it's passive awareness. For me, I was diagnosed when I was 3 years old with a hearing impairment. Unilaterally deaf is the correct term for my disability, meaning I am fully deaf in my left ear. With this disability, there are some factors that are also at play. For me, I have to listen 10 times harder than people to hear. And so this pushed back my ability to speak. So I didn't really learn how to talk until I was 4 years old. With that, I also had a speech impediment. I also had to get tubes when I was like 4 or 5 years old. So those are some things that truly did impact my development, because I always remember that time when I didn't know how to speak. I couldn't communicate. I only could communicate with my mom. I was in speech pathology classes before preschool. So I always joke that I was professionally taught how to speak, and so that's why I do speak with such accuracy, because I had those speech pathologists telling me what to do. But along the stage of Gibson, this passive awareness is a time where you're just like, I don't have a disability. Sure, this does impact me, but I'm not disabled. I don't have a wheelchair. Like that's what I would always think. I'm not. I can move. Everything's fine. I just can't always hear. I also really denied it. So it's something that I remember back in the day. Like I would tell people I can't hear it in my left ear, and they would just scream in it. And so with that, when I moved to a different school, in middle school, I didn't tell people that I was half deaf, because of the thing that I didn't want people to know was like, I don't have a disability. Yes, it's considered a disability, but I'm not disabled. So the one thing that I don't really understand is like the shying away from attention. I think it kind of makes sense that like people with disabilities don't want to be the center of attention, but that's one that I'm a little hesitant, especially for me and my experiences. Another thing that I think about with this stage is you don't associate with other people who have disabilities. People with disabilities are hard to find in some cases. So the not associating isn't always by choice. So I think that's something that needs to be taken into consideration when thinking about that. Some disabilities are also invisible. So I would find out that some of my friends were like, they had hearing impairments. And I was like, oh my God. But it's something that you have to talk about. It's not something that you can see. And some people don't want to disclose. So it's something that I understand where that's coming from, but there are many different things at play with that. The realization section is really interesting to me, because this was really me in middle school and high school. I didn't hate myself. That is one of the indications of this section. I just hated that I had a disability. I hated that I was different, that I was abnormal, that I didn't fit in with everyone. I'm socially awkward, and like that's because of my hearing. And I was like, why can't I just hear in the cafeteria? Why can't I have conversations in certain areas? Why can't I go to concerts and not have to wear earplugs? Like that was just when I was really hating my disability, really. I saw it as a disability, but I didn't really confirm to myself. Like, it's weird. I didn't confirm it to myself, and I didn't tell people. I still was, when I didn't start telling people I was half deaf until college, really. Like, I told some people in high school, but it was not the vast majority. I will agree that, like, you are concerned with how you're going to be perceived when you do disclose your disability. So, yeah, I agree with that because you don't know how people are going to react all the time. I was say concerned with appearance. Again, this kind of goes with shy away from attention. I don't know if this is a specific disability concept. I think that concern with disability or concern with appearance is a main factor in adolescence, which is when this phase is mostly perceived in if you were born with a disability. So that one I kind of don't really agree that it is strictly a disability thing. For me, at least, because again, my disability is hidden. So that could be something. But the superwoman complex is very interesting because I agree. I know that from my experiences, I said, I can do anything. Nothing's going to stop me. If I become fully deaf, I'll become a world famous deaf actress. Like, I was like, nothing can ever stop me, and I don't need an IEP, and I don't need to take hearing tests. I'm perfect. and looking back, I wish I wasn't like that. But it was a part of my development, and I understand that now. But it is interesting that it is a trait in the disability identity development model. So it's good to know that it wasn't just me. And then acceptance. This really is a huge phase that I, now working in disability services, see, and I'm very proud. For me, it happened probably this year in grad school. And it's sad to say, but like, I really now appreciate and I'm proud of my disability. I'm saying it loud and proud for many different reasons, but one is because I am proud of it. I'm proud of my trajectory. I'm proud of how I've developed as a human, as an adult, because it gives me a different perspective into the world that I live in, and I can appreciate that perspective now as opposed to when I was younger, and I hated that. I do believe that I am now an active advocate for people with disabilities because I have one, and that I want to help them reach acceptance as well. I want to be that role model that I didn't see. So that's why I am disclosing my disability more, because I want younger students to see that there is someone that is similar to them. Not always exactly the same, but similar, has a disability. I have integrated myself into the able-bodied world. I've always done that though, so I don't think that's an acceptance thing. I think adapting to the world of able-bodied is what all students or all kids, all people with disabilities do. That's something that is a must to be a person. And it sucks because you shouldn't have to adapt to a world. The world should be already welcoming. So that's something that I think needs to be taken into consideration in this model. I do see myself as relevant and worthwhile, and so I'm very happy too. I'm surrounded by people who appreciate my disability, appreciate what it adds to the table, but also adapt to me too. My mom and my boyfriend are so good about that, and so for me, this model is very apparent throughout my whole life because I am a kid who was born with a disability. And so it has been a part of me. So this development is very significant to my development as an adult. And though my acceptance happened later, it still happened. So it's interesting. But there are some flaws or some things that I think that need to be addressed within this. Maybe it needs to be updated because I don't agree with everything. But there are some good points that I think people with disabilities could take into consideration.